Hey, what is going on guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS5 news update. So it's another week's gone by and we have another load of PS5 updates to get through. Things have not been slowing down at all. Things have been going at a rapid pace recently. So let's go ahead and get into it all. So first of all, we have some news from TheFlow. So he put out a tweet not that long ago here where he says, seems like Sony fixed the BD Jailbreak path traversal sandbox escape on PS5 firmware 8.00. POC tweakable, change the base directory path, and if you do that, you can enjoy native code execution on PS5 firmware 7.61. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people kind of took this as some kind of new jailbreak up to firmware 7.61, which isn't quite true, unfortunately. This is not a jailbreak in any means, it's just a userland exploit. The BD jailbreak has always just been a userland exploit. And of course, we can chain it with a kernel exploit on firmwares 3.0 to 4.51 to get a partial jailbreak to be able to do the things that we're able to do right now on 3.0 to 4.51 with the fake package enabler, as well as the 60 FPS patches on all of that stuff. So that's what we can do with the Blu-ray drive exploit, the BD jailbreak combined with a kernel exploit, but we don't have a kernel exploit, the second part of that chain that's required in order to get the partial jailbreak on 7.61. So all he's saying here is the userland portion of the exploit works up to 7.61, but we don't have a kernel exploit to do anything with it at the moment on those firmwares. So we need to wait for a kernel exploit. So where are we in terms of actually getting a kernel exploit for a higher firmware on the PS5? Well, TheFlow reported some bugs to Sony about a month ago, where he said, spoiler alert, don't update, and he just reported those very cool bugs, so might take a while until disclosure. And one of those bugs was actually revealed here on HackerOne's bug bounty program for PlayStation. You can see here a report from TheFlow was closed 6 days ago, in which he received a $500 bounty. Now, $500 is a very low bounty. It's not going to be a kernel exploit because a kernel exploit is considered a high severity bug, which normally nets about $10,000. All of the previous bugs that TheFlow's reported that have been kernel exploits, he has received $10,000 for, like this one here for the PS4, and this one here, which affected the PS4 and the PS5, I believe, which is why he got $20,000 for that one. So unfortunately, this particular bug that he reported here is unlikely to be anything significant. We also have from Nullpointer a bug that was closed 2 days ago, but Nullpointer has come out and said that it's nothing significant for the PS5, it's nothing useful according to him, and according to him he only received about $500 for his report, so that's not really anything to take note of, it seems. So what about TheFlow? Well, this is only one bug. He did say he reported a few bugs to Sony, meaning multiple bugs to Sony, so this could just be one of the less severe ones that he has reported. If you actually go to his profile, you can see how many bugs have been closed. You've got this new one here that was only 6 days ago, the $500 one. And then you've got these older ones. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in total. But here it says 6 out of 8, which could mean that there's another 2 bugs, 2 reports that TheFlow has made on the bug bounty program that have not yet been disclosed. So that's a good sign that there could be a couple of other reports to come that will hopefully be closed fairly soon. And then if we get the actual amount that was awarded, if it's $10,000 or more, then that's a good sign that we have a new kernel exploit. But we still won't know if it's for PS4 or PS5 unless he gets 2 $10,000 bounties or a $20,000 bounty, which would indicate that it could be affecting both the PS4 and the PS5. So for now, obviously just stay on whatever firmware you're currently on and wait until these other bugs get closed so that we can get an idea of if it's a kernel exploit or not. And if it does turn out to be a kernel exploit, so then probably 3 to 6 months before we actually see it get disclosed. So anyway, that's basically what we have going on there in terms of future exploits. So let's move on to some of the stuff for 3.0 to 4.51. Obviously, there's still work ongoing for getting the offsets ported to get the PS4 fake package enabler running on other firmwares for the PS5 from 3.0 to 4.51. We got 4.03 initially. We recently got 4.50 support, so people on 4.50 can now run the fake package enabler and run your backup games and your homebrew applications. So that's all working for 4.50. Now, EchoStretch has gone ahead and posted the offsets that have currently been found for the different firmware versions. So he's got all the offsets that have been found so far from 3.0, 3.20, 3.21, 4.03 of course, as well as 4.50 and 4.51. So you can see that there's still quite a lot of offsets to be found on these other firmwares that are not supported yet. Now the porting script from Slayer's Govy has been updated a few times. It can now grab just over 30 offsets, I believe. So 30 offsets right now. However, there's about 72 offsets that need to be found in total. So unfortunately, we are still a little bit a ways away from getting support on these other firmwares for now. Unless somebody who's a developer who can actually find them manually updates to, you know, say 4.51 or has a console on 4.51 that's able to port it. Otherwise, we'll be waiting for the script to get updated to grab all of the necessary offsets. So that's where we are with that. So we also have some exploit host updates. So we have a new exploit host from IdleSauce, which is now accessible in the ES7IN1 site. So Echo Stretch's 7-in-1 host, you'll see it there in the bottom right hand corner. And of course, you can also go directly to the website, which is ps5jb.pages.dev. So if you head over there, this particular version of the exploit uses Spectre's host. However, it actually contains the payloads as options that you can just select in the browser, much like the PS4 exploit hosts. So you can just select the PS4 fake package enabler, and it will automatically run it without you having to inject the payload manually from your computer. So that's pretty handy. But on top of that, they've also added additional payloads in here as well, including the libhijacker, the game patch version from Illusion, to apply the 60 FPS and 120 FPS patches. And because it uses Spectre's host and the way it's set up, it's much more stable to load multiple payloads. So for example, I can select the PS5K stuff for the fake package enabler, and then once that's loaded, I can just go ahead and then load the libhijacker game patch version to get the 60 FPS patches, and that also loads just fine. Now obviously you can still run into crashes when running one payload after another. However, in this case, as you can see, both loaded successfully, and then I can go ahead and load, say, Bloodborne, which has a 60 FPS patch. Because I'm using the disk version, it should allow it to patch no problem there, and we get our 60 FPS patch applied when we launch the game. So that works just fine. And then of course, I can also still load my PS4 fake packages like Assassin's Creed Mirage with both of the payloads running one after the other, using this IdleSauce host, which contains all the payloads you need after you load the exploit, and you don't have to inject it manually. And I'm sure some of the other hosts in Echo Stretch's 7-in-1 host will probably update to a similar system at some point soon. But for now anyway, the IdleSauce host is kind of my go-to for now. There's also the audio bug with Resident Evil 4 Remake that seems to be making more of an appearance for people on 4.50 with other games as well. So some people have managed to fix this by disabling 3D audio. So you can disable 3D audio in the game settings, or you can probably better to do it in the actual PS5 system settings itself. You can disable 3D audio, and apparently that does fix it for some people or on certain games. For some reason, it seems to fix the issue on Resident Evil 4 Remake for some people and not others. In my case, disabling 3D audio does not fix the audio bug, but for other people it does. So it's a bit strange, really, why there would be some kind of difference between some people having the issue and other people not having the issue. So there still seems to be some issues here with the whole fake package enabler. Obviously, we still have the DLC problem. Downloadable content's not working for PS4 games at the moment with the fake package enabler. And to get it working, you have to do some manual patching with actually packing the DLC content inside the original app. But you also have to modify some stuff so that it can actually load the DLC and recognize the DLC. Otherwise, it won't work. So yeah, there's still a lot of kind of bugs and a few things here and there that are causing some issues. So moving on from that, we also have Lightning Mods, who is working on updating the Homebrew Store. So the Homebrew Store, as he shows here in this video, seems to be working absolutely fine. He's able to, you know, download applications from the Homebrew Store, and all the base functionality that you would expect from the Homebrew Store appears to be working. Now, at the moment, the Homebrew Store is going to be geared up. The PS5 version is going to be geared up to only allow you to download and install PS4 apps that are compatible with the PS5. So in that way, you're not going to get all of the apps that normally show up in the Homebrew Store, which just wouldn't run on the PS5 anyway, which is pretty handy. And another thing that Lightning Mods mentioned that's quite significant here is that PS4 Homebrew apps can actually be made more powerful by taking advantage of the libhijacker, because typically PS4 fake package apps that are running on the PS5 are, you know, running PS4 code, and they're only able to access, you know, PS4 functions. However, with the libhijacker, PS4 Homebrew can actually take advantage of some of the features that the libhijacker daemon has that's running in the background, and it's a native PS5, executable, a native PS5 process. So PS4 homebrew apps are actually able to take advantage of native PS5 code essentially by accessing the libhijacker daemon that's running in the background. So that's pretty handy. It means that, a lot of PS4 apps will have more functionality than they otherwise would by taking advantage of libhijacker as well. So pretty cool stuff going on there. Another thing to mention here, of course, Al-Azif, the DNS addresses. So right now, Al-Azif's DNS addresses are not working, taking them down for maintenance and upgrades. So those are the 165.227.83.145 and 192.241.221.79. Those two DNS addresses are currently down. So, if you were using those, if you had those set up in your settings, in your network settings on the PS5 or PS4, you will have no internet access right now unless you remove them and set the DNS settings back to automatic. There are alternative DNS addresses you can use. I mean, Al-Azif's ones should be back in a day or two, but there are alternative ones you can use. However, it is a bit risky to be using kind of sketchy third-party DNS addresses where you don't know, if the person is trustworthy or not, because of course, if you use those DNS addresses, then the person who's running those can see, your network traffic, and they can see what sites you're trying to access. So it's kind of a bit dodgy to be using some of these third-party DNS addresses that have popped up recently. Obviously, it's up to you, especially if you're only using it on your PS5, then you're probably not going to be accessing anything important like your bank accounts on a PS5. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but obviously there are other ways you can block the system updates without using third-party DNS addresses. I do have a video on that I'll leave in the description. I made it over a year ago, but it does show you some alternative methods you can use to block the system updates without having to use a third-party DNS address. So anyway, that is another option you have right there, but the DNS addresses from Al-Azif should be back in a day or two anyway, so you shouldn't have to wait too long before things are back to normal. Now, moving on from that, we also have a couple of tools. So we've got the Save Transfer Wizard that was released recently. Now, this just makes it easier to pull save files off your PS5. So through FTP, it'll just grab the save files from whatever, application that you select for your PS4 games and your PS5 games. You can download the save data to your computer and upload save data from your computer to the PS5. Now, we still can't really do much with saves at the moment. And this software really is just doing what you could already do with FTP. You could just pull the saves off with FTP initially. This just makes it a little bit easier because you don't have to manually navigate and find the save location on the hard drive. So it's a little bit more convenient, but you can't do much with saves at the moment. With the PS5, you can't really do anything with PS5 saves right now. And with the PS4 saves, technically, if you have a jailbroken PS4, you could copy a PS4 save that you made on the PS5 to the PS4, and then inject a decrypted save file into it with the Apollo save tool on the PS4, and then upload that back to the PS5 to use a modded save file. However, it's probably more convenient just to wait until the Apollo save tool gets ported to run on the PS5 anyway, and then you'll be able to do it all on the PS5 without having to have a jailbroken PS4. And Save Wizard doesn't really have that functionality either, so overall, there's not much you can really do with save files right now anyway, and this Save Transfer Wizard is just doing what we could already do with FTP, just makes it a bit more convenient to back up and upload save files between your computer and your PS5. And as I reported last week about how Jabu is going to be updating his tools for converting PS2, PS1, and Sega Saturn games over to PS4 fake packages, we do have an update on the PS2 fake package tool. He's released version 0.7 beta, so a new version of his PS2 fake package tools. So he posted this over on PSX Place, and there are some updates here about some of the new stuff that has been added. So there's a lot of general fixes added in here, but there's a couple of kind of quality of life stuff that's been added as well. So for example, some of the additions that have been added here is that it's now possible to enable/disable reset on disk change when changing disks. It's also now possible to disable MTVU, which should help some games that don't play right with multi-threaded VU1 emulation, like Crash Nitro Kart, Time Splitters, etc. And it's also possible to disable instant VIF1 transfer, which should be able to help fix some other games like Soul Calibur 2 and others. And it's also possible to select a scanline shader now in the graphics options. You can also lower the game volume in the settings as well. And the app also shows if it's found a compatible text Lua or PS3 config for the selected disk. And that's one of the handy things that Jabu's tool does as well, is that it will detect if there's a config available for your game so that it can apply that automatically and, you know, get the game running better than it otherwise would. Obviously, it won't find a config for every single game, but any game it does detect a config for, it can apply that automatically, because you can add custom like Lua scripts, and there's like custom emulator settings that can set up the game to work better with the emulator. And obviously, if it finds a config that's compatible with your game, it can apply that automatically for you without you having to manually mess around with the emulator settings. So pretty handy right there. So that's what's been released so far, but I believe he's also coming out with a newer version of the PS1 converter as well as the Sega Saturn converter. So if you were having any problems running certain PS2 games before, maybe you can try the updated tool and see if you can get better compatibility. So anyway, that's basically it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys once again in the next video.